The first part of this video will be me reviewing the Skypad 4.0. The second part of this video will be explaining why Skypad have rebranded now to Wallhack. And then the final part of this video will be me going through some nuances to glass pads if you're unfamiliar with them and you don't know what to expect. So Wallhack have kept the Skypad name in their iconic product line, and the Wallhack Skypad 4.0 is their 4th generation glass mousepad. The 4.0 still plays like a Skypad though, it's still a speed pad, but it's got its own distinct feel and style. And holy, it is premium. The packaging that the Skypad 4.0 comes in is absolutely spot on. There's magnets to hold this together, so there's no accidental droppages or Skypads falling out of packages here. The foam is really premium. And underneath here you have an envelope, you've got a couple of Wallhack stickers, and you also get a nice little microfiber cloth, which is a good little touch. This is here to help you maintain the surface of the Skypad, just wiping off dust and so on. So I think packaging is really important for glass pads. I don't like to leave my glass pads just hanging around the house. I like to keep them in a box where I know they're going to be protected. And as you've seen with the Skypad 3.0 packaging, it's starting to show wear and tear. I think this box on the Skypad 4.0 will take a long time to degrade, and I think this is a really, really good feature of this generation of Skypad. The Skypad 4.0 also has a really nice silicone rubber base. It has really good coverage over the back of the pad, and it sticks really well to my desk. This finally means that the Skypad glass range no longer has flex in the base, and this was an issue I had with the previous iteration of this pad. I'm really happy that they've now resolved that problem. So the pad is also 490 by 430 and it is just under 4mm thick. It's a really good sized pad in my opinion. It doesn't take up too much space on the desk, and the height of the pad isn't anything that I notice particularly. It's about the same depth as like a cloth pad would be, which is really nice. You can also see that the corners of the pad are not sharp, they're nicely rounded, and you won't find yourself getting hurt or scratched or caught on the edge of the Skypad 4.0. In terms of how the surface feels, it feels really nice and again, very premium. Some glass pads don't feel like glass at all, they feel more like plastic, and I'd say the Superglide feels a bit more like plastic when compared to other glass pads on the market. The 4.0 feels like glass, and I much prefer the feel of the 4.0 than I do to the Superglide. It does get cold in low temperatures though, so you'll need to consider that. You know, if that's a problem for you, just know that most glass pads will suffer from the same issue. In terms of performance characteristics, the 4.0 is noticeably smoother than the 3.0, and when comparing them to each other, the 3.0 feels quite gritty and scratchy, and the 4.0, to use keyboard terminology, feels almost creamy. It's still extremely fast, and I think the smoothness of the 4.0 makes it ever so slightly faster than the 3.0 with similar stopping power. And by that I mean it's got very little stopping power. And because of that, I feel like the 4.0 is better suited to tracking heavy games. Although it can perform well in clicking scenarios, I feel tracking is its strong point. Playing on this pad really does feel like you're experiencing your raw aim. Your pure skill is what makes this thing work, and there's little to no dynamic or static friction available to help mask your aiming flaws, and this is a good and a bad thing in my opinion. If you have poor aiming mechanics, you'll be shit on the Skypad. But the Skypad being such a raw aiming experience will, in my opinion, help you rapidly improve your aiming skill, because every little mistake you make will be noticeable and therefore can be addressed through focused effort, either in game or in an aim trainer. If you are a cracked aimer, on the other hand, I don't think you could get a better pad for you, as it really helps you realise your potential through the speed of the surface. The Skypad 4.0 has a high skill floor when compared to other pads, but it has an even higher skill ceiling, which you love to see. I've linked a video below because there's a chap who talks this through in the context of the 3.0 in great detail, and everything they say there is directly applicable here too. So go check them out, show some support while you're at it. So while I don't main the Skypad 3.0, because let's face it, I'm a bit rubbish at this aim stuff, I do genuinely enjoy using it, and I do get it out from time to time to test myself and see how I've improved. It's always a refreshing and exciting aiming experience, and I personally won't ever be without a Skypad in my game room. There's nothing else quite like it for that fast, raw aim, pure skill, aiming input experience. I personally have had to use a sleeve on the Skypad 4.0, but it does feel slightly less sticky than the 3.0 does, so your mileage will vary depending on your skin type. And the Wallhack sleeve is way better than the previous Skypad sleeve, primarily because they've improved the material composition from a 90-10 split to now be an 80-20 material split. I've got a video going deep into sleeves, basically covering what you need them for and which ones I recommend. That is linked below. Check that out for details if you're unsure you'll need to pick one up. I genuinely like this sleeve though, particularly for use on a hard pad because it covers the flesh of my thumb and pinky, which are the stickiest parts of my hand. I haven't had tons of time to play with the 4.0, but I have tried various different mouse feet, even if it was just briefly. And here's my summary on how they perform. The Ghost Glide Edge runners are incredibly smooth, probably the smoothest experience on the 4.0 due to them being the softest PTFE I've tried. The normal Obsidians felt a little bit less smooth than the Edge runners, and the Ghost Glide Cyclones feel insane on the 4.0. They feel almost as smooth as the Edge runners, but they're obviously hardened PTFE, so they'll last for longer. And my full-size core pads on my EC1CW felt really good. They're probably my favourite experience when I'm not using dot skates, due to the added surface area you get on that full-sized mouse feet. With that added surface area, you can feel the slight texture of the pad a little bit better, which is typically my preference when I'm playing on a glass surface. I do tend to use dots on glass though, because they're typically more cost effective in the long run. So Wallhack have also released Obsidian Pro dots. They're a collab with X-Ray Pad, and they work exceptionally well on the 4.0. As I've said in a previous video, also linked below, these dots are great if you find yourself struggling with the speed and stopping power of a hard pad, and they'll slow it down slightly and offer a bit more stopping power. I would guess that there's about a 10% difference in glide speed or control with the Obsidian Pros installed when compared to a different mouse foot. So before we go into the second part of this video now, I'm going to wrap up this review section by transitioning to a glass pad comparison segment, and then we'll come back for section 2. So when I compare the Skypad 4.0 to the rest of my glass collection, I put them in this kind of order in terms of usability. So I've got the TJ exclusive pads at the top, and that's the Kin and that's the Cerapad Speed. And I put those right at the top because they are kind of acting as a hybrid between a soft pad and a hard pad, because they offer a lot of control and not as much speed as everything else on this list. So therefore I put them at the top. If you're new to hard pads, they might be a really good option for you as an entry point into the drug that is hard pads. So from there we come down to the Wraithesports Cosmic Glass V2 Control, and this is a step up in speed from the Cerapad products, and also a step down in stopping power if you are relatively new to aiming and competitive gaming. Anything much faster than that when you're at that point in your competitive gaming multiplayer kind of experience will be too fast, I think, in my opinion, for you to have a good experience with it. So from there we come down to the Razer Atlas, and the Razer Atlas is again another step up in speed and a step down from the Wraith pad in terms of stopping power. So it's probably, in my opinion, the most balanced pad on this list. You know, it gives you a really good balance of speed and control. The Razer Atlas is not a bad option for you to choose. So we go from the Razer Atlas onto the Padsmiths Dark Chaos over there. That's the Striker Series glass pad, and I've staggered it from the Atlas because it's a similar speed in terms of dynamic friction, but it doesn't give you quite as much stopping power as the Atlas does. So therefore it requires a little bit more skill to use because it doesn't give you quite as much control as the others. And it's at this point I'd say those are the pads I would recommend for people that are new to glass pads, because they offer you a more balanced experience, and you know, depending on where you see yourself in that skill level depends on which pad I think you should buy. So the differences between these pads are quite subtle because they are all glass at the end of the day, but they are noticeable to me. So it's important to consider which one is right for you when you buy them. And then at the end of this rug, we have the Skypad 3.0 and the Skypad 4.0. And the reason I've offset these two is because the 3.0 feels a little bit more textured, a little bit more gritty than the 4.0 does. And that could be perceived by some, myself included, as it providing you with a little bit more control and feedback from the playing surface, which some people, like myself, find incredibly valuable in their play sessions. So the 4.0 is much smoother than the 3.0 is, and it will give you that purest aiming experience out of any of these pads on the list, because there's nothing on these two pads, particularly the 4.0, that will mask your poor aiming inputs. It's got the highest skill floor, but it also has the highest skill ceiling. Another way of explaining this is by saying if you're just like a normal person, you're not an ultra competitive gamer, and you just want to log in every now and then, have fun with your friends online, playing online multiplayer games, I'd consider buying from this half of the rug, because they'll give you a more balanced experience and they'll help you manage your aim inputs a little bit better than the Skypads will. If you're a person that takes gaming quite seriously, you put a lot of time in to practice your mechanics, and you think that you're a better than average gamer, then there's nothing, I don't think, that will serve you better in terms of advancing your aiming development than a Skypad product, because it is basically providing you with that raw aim experience. Everything you do on this pad will be noticeable, either good or bad, because it is such a fast and free and open aiming experience, and therefore I think it's for the upper echelon of gamer in terms of their aiming mechanics. Of the two, the 4.0, as I've said, is slightly faster, it offers less stopping power, and therefore of all of my glass pads, it is the hardest one to use, but it is the most rewarding. Skypad has rebranded to Wallhack, and I didn't see that coming. The really short version of this story is that when you hear the word Skypad, you think of the glass mousepad, not necessarily the other products they've released, like the sleeve and the dot skates. And that association runs deep in the enthusiast community at this point. The Skypad team spent a lot of time in 2023 looking for ways to break this association down, because they have plans for growth going into the future, and their growth won't be solely focused on the glass pad product that they're so well known for. And as a result, they've opted to rebrand as Wallhack. They've obviously kept the name of the Skypad in their product line, but this will feature as one of their products, not their whole identity. I don't have any idea what Wallhack have planned for the future, but I really hope we'll see some cool innovation from them in the next few months. It is really awesome to see them make adjustments to both the Skypad product and the gaming sleeve based off of community feedback, and that gives me confidence that Wallhack is going to succeed. So I feel very privileged to be asked by Wallhack to review their premiere release. They were kind enough to send me the Skypad 4.0 a couple of weeks ago, and have given me an affiliate code that will give you a 10% discount. And when you use that code, I will get a commission on each sale. Those details will be below if you choose to purchase anything from Wallhack going forward, and I hope that you can see my views in this video are genuine. The final stage of this video will be a quick summary of what to expect from glass pads if you've never used one before. And the most common question or complaint I see about hard pads is that they wear your mouse feet down very fast when compared to a cloth pad. And while that's true, it's not as bad as some people make it out to be. I think most people will get about 4 months of use from a pair of mouse feet on a hard pad before they need to change them. And this is why dot skates are a good option for glass pad users, because you typically get 40 in a pack. I usually apply 5 to my mice when I use dot skates, and that's basically 8 replacement sets that will last you up to 2 years in total, for about a tenner. No, it's really not as bad as people make it out to be. A lot of people also ask if they need to wear a sleeve. Like I've already said earlier in the video, I've covered this in depth in a video linked in the description below. So I'll draw this one to a quick close. Go and watch that one if you want the answer to that question. In terms of maintenance, the 4.0 doesn't have a coating, so you can use window cleaner or soapy water, or even just normal water with a microfiber cloth. Just wipe it down, dry it off, and bang it back on a desk. Moving into wear and tear then. So most gamers suffer from the occasional food and drink spillage, and on a cloth pad, This can be devastating, literally ruining a pad, either aesthetically or functionally, because food and drink can soak into a soft pad and you could catalyse the forming of a slow spot. None of that happens with a hard pad. It will perform the same on day 10,000 as it does on day 1. It's incredibly resilient, and a food spillage isn't going to have any effect on the surface. In the same vein, I worry sometimes about leaving things on my cloth pads because I end up with indentations on the surface that can take a long time to come out. And if I'm trying to play on a cloth surface that feels like it's been formed into a different shape, you know, like that memory foam effect, it's a bit of a shit experience. And my final point is that using a glass surface can make a heavy mouse feel much lighter due to the reduced friction you get from the playing surface. It feels like it drops a good percentage in weight, and if you're using a really heavy mouse, it can make it feel about 25% lighter on a hard, fast surface. So if you have any more questions, please chuck them in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. Good luck, Godspeed, and God bless.